sucks.
You know what's frustrating? Evictions used to be really rare. In the 1900s, they were so uncommon, they would actually draw crowds. Can you imagine doing that today? Only a psycho would watch an eviction.
Today we are heading to an eviction, a real live eviction. You're probably gonna see this tenant, scrambling, trying to put away all their belongings. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna be watching this, and I'm expecting some type of hate from those liberal out there like, what the hell, Holton Wise, you guys are horrible. How could you throw a family out? It's snowing, blah, blah, blah.
Seriously, even if his tenant is behind on rent, fuck this guy and fuck his merch. This dude has merch. For people who want to buy a rents due beach towel in case you ever want to go surfing with Lou Dobbs. Or how about an I Love Evictions onesie, or as it's known to Benjamin Netanyahu, a regular onesie. Look at him. He loves it in there. James Weiss isn't the only landlord who loves evictions, and you might be wondering why.
The short answer to that is it's more efficient to evict the family than to keep up payments or to keep up maintenance on your property. And you can do that because families are so strapped, they're giving so much of their income to rent, that if they call a building inspector or report a housing problem, landlords can evict that family, not because retaliatory evictions are legal, but because you can at any time evict a family who are behind.
That's it. It's cheaper to evict you than it is to fix stuff. Landlords are like, oh, hey, your faucet's broken? Let me just, reach into my toolbox here and get out. Before the coronavirus, if you were late on rent, landlords had no incentive to wait because there was so much demand. They evict you, they get new tenants, and the rent checks never stop. And no one has taken more advantage of that fact than America's richest landlord.
Wall Street's now moving into the rental market for single-family homes.
Manhattan's biggest apartment complex is now in the hands of the world's largest private equity firm.
Billion-dollar landlords who snatched up thousands of houses when the market was low, but instead of flipping them, these corporate landlords are renting out the houses.
I know! Wall Street's always the bad guy. They're one of this show's three big enemies. It's Wall Street, foreign dictators, and of course, shredded coconut. How do you eat something that looks like the Pillsbury Doughboys' pubes? Jesus, take that down. It's Ramadan. But we have to talk about Wall Street because in many ways, they are the future of renting, and they are evicting tenants at crazy high rates. In Atlanta, some large corporate landlords file eviction notices on a third of their properties in a year, and there is a reason they're like this. After the 2008 housing crisis, private equity firms bought up homes on the cheap, and by 2018, investors accounted for over 11% of all home purchases in America. Now, guess what they did with all that rental income they were making?
They then gather together the rental income from their thousands of homes, and in Blackstone's case, bundle those income streams together, price them, and then sell them on to other investors.
It's just like a mortgage-backed security, but instead of revenue coming from monthly mortgage payments, it comes from rent.
After the housing bubble imploded, Wall Street learned that mortgages can be risky. And also a pain in the ass. Because if the money's not coming in, it takes forever to foreclose and then get a new owner. But if you make an investment based on rent, it's much safer. Because you can evict someone quick, get a new tenant in there, and then keep the rent checks coming in. Do you see what's happening? Investment firms have turned eviction into their new billion-dollar baby. And to truly understand how messed up this is, just look at a company called Invitation Homes, which was formerly owned by Blackstone. In 1 year in Atlanta, they filed to evict almost 15% of their tenants. They're kind of like the Church of Scientology. They're like, pay us now or you're out. Also, maybe dead. They're also one of the biggest landlords in America and a truly garbage company.
The Better Business Bureau has received more than 600 complaints from across the country in just the last 3 years. Most give Invitation Homes just 1 star, while some say they'd give 0 if they could, calling the company the worst landlord I've ever encountered.
Ah, come on, they can't be the worst landlord. They don't even sell merch. At one point, Invitation Homes was evicting so many people and treating tenants so poorly that the United Nations accused Blackstone of contributing to the global housing crisis, saying they were, quote, inconsistent with human rights law. I thought that only applied to chocolate factories, like the one owned by Willy Wonka or Nestle. But it makes sense when you find out how much they bully their tenants.
Desiree Trombley says her nightmares started when her family decided to move out of their rental after they found a house to buy. She gave the required 30 days notice and says she followed all the other rules of the lease agreement. But then, more than 3 weeks later, got a big surprise. This final bill.
It was like $6,500.
She says Invitation Homes tried to intimidate her, had an attorney go after her, and even threatened to ruin her credit unless she paid up. She had to hire her own attorney, and the company still refused to give her security deposit back.
Listen, if you rent from Invitation Homes, you're not getting the security deposit back, so just go insane. Throw a rager, leave a dead body in the shower. Better yet, have an orgy, because it really doesn't matter. If this all sounds bad, it's about to get worse. Because of COVID, the perfect storm is brewing. If the government doesn't help with rent relief, tenants might be like, look, screw my landlord, I gotta eat. But that means your landlord could lose their property, and companies like Invitation Homes can swoop right in. Last month, the Wall Street Journal said some investors believe this pandemic is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to buy real estate at bargain prices. Ah, yes, kind of like how Hurricane Katrina was a once-in-a-generation opportunity to swim down Bourbon Street. Now, make no mistake, as we get past the health crisis, there's an eviction crisis waiting for us on the other side. And renters don't deserve to be this vulnerable. So if you're having trouble paying rent, go to don'tgetkickedout.com. You can see if your building qualifies for the federal moratorium. You can look up the eviction protections in your state. And if you have to go to housing court, there's a link there to help you find a lawyer. But if you only take one thing from this episode, please, for the love of God, never rent from a neckbeard with a YouTube channel.